Be nice.
Soni Mataji, would you like to do the Manglacharan?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance. Om Ajnanantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Shwapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Soni Mataji, for reciting this wonderful Manglacharan. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 16. And the text for today is 34 to 36. We hand over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sure. So I read the Sanskrit translation and purports. So text 34. Yo ve mamatmi bharam asura vamsharajñam akshuhini shatam apanudam atmatantra tvam dhustam unapadam atmani parushena sampadayan yadushu ramyam abhibhradangam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O personality of religion, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanxes arranged by atheistic kings, and I was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you are also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy in the family of the Yadus to relieve you. Purport. The Asuras want to enjoy a life of sense gratification, even at the cost of others' happiness. In order to fulfill this ambition, the Asuras, especially atheistic kings or state executive heads, try to equip themselves with all kinds of deadly weapons to bring about a war in a peaceful society. They have no ambition other than personal aggrandizement, and thus Mother Earth feels overburdened by such undue increases of military strength. By increase of the Asuric population, those who follow the principles of religion become unhappy, especially the devotees or devas. In such a situation, the personality of Godhead incarnates to vanquish the unwanted asuras and to re-establish the true principles of religion. This was the mission of Lord Sri Krishna, and he fulfilled it. Text 35. Kava sahita viraham purushottamasya premavaloka ruchira smita valgu jalpe sthairyam samanam aharan madhumaninam romotsavo mama yad angri vitankitayaha. Translation. Who therefore can tolerate the pangs of separation from that Supreme Personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts like Satyabhama by his sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. When he traversed my earth's surface, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure. Purple. There were chances of separation between the Lord and his thousands of queens because of the Lord's being absent from home. but as far as his connection with earth was concerned, the Lord would traverse the earth with his lotus feet, and therefore there was no chance of separation. When the Lord left the surface of the earth to return to his spiritual abode, the earth's feelings of separation were therefore more acute. Text 36. Tayor evam kathayato prithvi dharmayostada parikshinam rajarshi prapta prachim sarasvatim. Translation. While the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly king Parikshit reached the shore of the Saraswati river, which flowed towards the east. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Hare Krishna, thank you, Kirtika Mataji. Thank you for the devotees who joined as well. It's nice to have an audience, but we will see how a physical audience is not necessarily always necessary to glorify Krishna. So, summary of what we've read / discussed so far, and especially since we're at the end of the chapter, it makes perfect sense, right? I know I always do it, but it just happens that this time it's at the end of the chapter, so it's nice. So at the start, we heard just from the previous chapter that the Pandavas had retired, right? And so in this chapter, Sutta Goswami is starting to talk more about Parikshit Maharaj. He's talking about Parikshit Maharaj's rule, the situations that he got put in. And very briefly, Sutta Goswami starts to talk about a specific situation that Parikshit Maharaj found himself in. And that situation is that he found himself coming in front of a Shudra who's disguised as a king, who's hurting the legs of a cow and a bull. And Shunaka Rishi, completely on the ball, he picks this up immediately. And he's like, oh, you've just mentioned this, now tell us more, tell us more. Specifically tell us more if it's associated to Krishna, if it's associated to topics related to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And while Shunaka Rishi is speaking, they also talk about how even Yamraj, right, the controller of death, is bought over by Krishna Katha. And yet the ignorant, those who aren't associated with Krishna, who don't know about the glories of Krishna, they perform what is described as vyartha karmabi, right, which is useless endeavors. So in response, Sutta Goswami then starts rewinding from what he was saying, and he starts to explain the situation in more detail, right? Almost like a flashback in a movie, like somebody's just gone, okay, tell us more, like remind us of this. And so you just have a flashback going back at the time. And so Sutta Goswami starts talking about how, okay, there's Parikshit Maharaj had learned about the influence of Kali, the infiltration of the age of Kali. And so as a noble king did in those days, they would go and start conquering all the directions, because that was a safe thing to do. Parikshit Maharaj was a very pious king. So it was a safe thing that the whole world stayed under his rule. And as he traveled around the world, everywhere he went, he would always hear about the glories of his lineage. He would always hear about the glorious devotion of his lineage, the relationship that his forefathers had with Krishna, and he'd hear about Krishna himself also. And hearing about all this actually developed great devotion in Parikshit Maharaj's own heart. And that's something that we can learn to take away as well. When we hear about devotees, when we hear about Krishna's relationships with the devotees, and the reciprocation that Krishna has with his pure devotees, then that should stimulate more devotion in us also. Especially if we're hearing properly, it should stimulate more devotion. We want to do more, we want to go deeper. And then Sutta Goswami starts to narrate that specific pastime that he had briefly spoke about, that incident with the bull and the cow. And the pastime starts with a conversation between a one-legged bull and a grieving cow. Now, who is this bull and who is this cow? So the bull is described to be Dharma, right, who has lost 3 legs, right? So he's only standing on 1 leg. Now, Dharma, there's 4 pillars of Dharma, right, which we know as truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity, and compassion, right, or kindness. But this bull is only standing on 1 leg, which depicts the age of Kali of there only being 1 leg of Dharma that is prominent, which is truthfulness. And who's the cow? The cow is described to be Mother Earth. And she's grieving, she's lamenting because she's bereft of Krishna's presence. She's lamenting about the implications of Kali's increasing influence, not just on her, but on all the living entities, from the bull, Dharma, to the demigods also. And specifically yesterday in verse 33, we would hear about how the cow, how Mother Earth was expressing her despondence, right, we could say. Despondence at being bereft or devoid of the prints, the footprints of Krishna, and specifically the markings on the Lord's lotus feet. And then we come to the 3 verses that we talk about today. So in sort of short form, verse 34 we can say is Mother Earth expressing her gratitude towards the Lord for relieving her of the overburdening presence of the atheistic kings, but also for relieving the bull, Dharma, by having the Lord's own internal energy, internal potencies being incarnated in the form of his intimate devotees like the Yadu dynasty. Then in verse 35, we start to actually enter the mood of separation that Mother Earth is feeling, right? So Mother Earth is actually revealing to us about her own internal mood when Krishna left the planet. And then in verse 36, which is just a befitting sort of end to the chapter, we hear and read about how Pariksha Maharaj has now arrived at the spot where the cow and the bull were speaking, and more importantly, which prepares us for the next chapter, which is where the Shudra was posing as a king and beating the cow and bull. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we know there's a very famous verse that Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Now, most of us on this call who have an Indian background, we will know this verse from the old age Mahabharata series in the 80s, 90s, whenever it was. And what does it mean? Paritaranaya sadhunam. So Krishna is saying that to deliver the pious, right, to protect the pious, to protect the devotees, vinashaya cha dushkritam, right, to annihilate the demons or the miscreants, dharma samstapanarthaya, to re-establish the codes and conduct of religion, right, the principles of religion. To do those 3 things, sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna is saying that he himself appears millennium after millennium. And specifically, I'll point out vinashaya dushkritam, right, which we mentioned is annihilating the miscreants, annihilating the demons. That's one of the 3 reasons why Krishna, in his forms, in his incarnations, appears. But who are miscreants? Miscreants are those who don't actually care about religious principles. They don't care about developing or supporting a God-conscious society. You could say that their mission is focused around their own sense enjoyment, their own enjoyment of the mind. That's their primary goal. And when we look at history, right, then we can see that the Lord appears and annihilates demons or the demoniac mentality in every incarnation. We can see the example of Hiranyaksha, for example, Hiranyaksha was a great asura, right? And he had this boon that was almost, in his eyes, made him immortal. He had the boon that he was indestructible from any human and from almost any animal, because he had to give a list of all the animals that he couldn't be killed by. But he missed a few. But with all that power that he had, with all that boon, right, the strength he had from that boon, instead of using it for religious principles, instead of using it to protect living entities, instead of using it to encourage them to take shelter of the Lord, what did Hiranyaksha do? He used it to torment everybody. He used it to torment all the living entities, even torment Mother Earth, to such an extent, actually, that Mother Earth began to sink. She began to drown in the cosmic ocean. That's how much he agitated all the living entities on Mother Earth. And what happened? Well, it's like a superhero movie, right? Krishna is the prime superhero. Every superhero is based on Krishna, a small fraction of Krishna. So just as a superhero comes, saves the day, Krishna came in the form of Varahadev, a boar, to save Mother Earth, to put her back into her orbit, and to kill Hiranyaksha. Or we can see in the case of Hiranyakashipu, right? Hiranyakashipu was the brother of Hiranyaksha, and he thought he was much smarter than Hiranyaksha, right? Hiranyaksha just said, okay, just give me a boon that I can't be killed by humans, I can't be killed by a list of animals. No, I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to use the dualities of life. I can't be killed in day or at night. I can't be killed inside or outside. I can't be killed by man or animal. Like this, he went on to give like all the dualities that he could think of. So in some way, he had obtained a boon which was better than his brother. And that reflected in how powerful he became. It's described that he was so powerful that all the three worlds were servants at his feet. I forget which personality it's used. Maybe one of the devotees on the chat, on the call knows, but I believe it's Indra that was cutting vegetables in his kitchen. That's how powerful Hiranyakashipu was. And it's described that even personalities like Brahma and Shiva were very respectful towards him. And yet, just to save Prahlad Maharaj, who appears on the scene? Narsimadev. Narsimadev appears and annihilates Hiranyakashipu. We know from the Narsimarti, Hiranyakashipu vakshaha shilatanka nakhalaye. Right? Narsimadev appears with his chisel-like nails to rip apart the stone-like chest of Hiranyakashipu. Why? Because of Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. To protect his devotee, in this case Prahlad, and to annihilate the demon, in this case Hiranyakashipu. And we can even see in context, right? When we're talking about pastime related to Pariksha Maharaj's era was shortly after Krishna, right? Just a couple of chapters ago, we heard about Krishna leaving Hastinapur, entering Dwarka, and then leaving for the spiritual abode. Even Krishna appeared and killed demons. Right? Krishna appeared on the plea of Brahma and on the plea of Mother Earth to save and protect Mother Earth. So he killed demons like Putana, Agasur, Bakasur, Dhenasur, even demoniac kings like Kamsa and Shishupal. Why? To protect his devotees also, like the Vrajvasis, the Mathuravasis, etc. And it's not that Krishna only appears, or an incarnation of Krishna only appears to kill demons. He also appears to kill demoniac mentalities as well. And a prime example of this is Jagaya Madai with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagaya Madai were described to be the lowest of the low, right? Everywhere they went, they would just find ways to create havoc. They would find ways to break and force rules and regulations to be broken, to destroy the chastity of women, to destroy every and any regulative principle, religious principle that they could. But instead of killing Jagai and Madai, Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, who are non-different to Krishna and Balaram, what did they do? They destroyed the demoniac mentality within Jagai and Madai. And then we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that they became great saintly personalities. So when the Lord appears, the Lord does three things. The Lord protects the pious, or we could say he protects the devotees rather. He appears to destroy the demons or the demoniac mentality. And he appears to re-establish the codes and conduct of religion. The asuras or the demons or the miscreants, by nature, they're actually looking to just enjoy the world. They're looking to exploit other living entities. They're looking to exploit Mother Earth for their own benefit. But the Lord comes to relieve all the living entities, to relieve Mother Earth, and to relieve the principles of Dharma. And actually, when we look at the Lord's appearance, there's actually a very common theme throughout all of his appearances. And that is that the Lord appears because of the plea of a devotee. Whether it's the demigods, whether it's Brahma, whether it's Mother Earth or another personality. The Lord appears because there's a devotee out there who's calling out to the Lord like, please appear. Please protect us. Please save us. And when we think of Mother Earth, then we can understand that it's quite natural for her to be a common personality who's pleading out to the Lord on this. Why? Because we can go back to something that Janaka Pandit has said. Prabhupada often quotes from Janaka Pandit, right? Where Janaka Pandit is talking about the 7 mothers that we have. Atma Mara Guru Patni Brahmani Rajapatnika Dhenu Dhatri Tatha Prithvi Saptita Matara Smritaha. Translation: one's own mother, the wife of the Guru, the wife of a Brahmana, the wife of a king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth are known as the 7 mothers of a man. Unquote. So Janaka Pandit is giving us 7 mothers, and 2 of them are, one is Dhenu, and one is Prithvi. So Dhenu is cow, and Prithvi is earth. And in this pastime, we see that Mother Earth herself has come in the form of a cow. Right, so she's a mother already, and she's also appearing in the role of a mother in this pastime. And this Janaka Pandit verse is actually talking about how every man, every living entity has these 7 mothers. So we can understand that, especially those who are mothers on this call or grandmothers on this call, you can appreciate that when a child is going through any form of suffering, the mother will feel it in her heart. She'll really feel the suffering, the pain. Oftentimes, even mothers can't sleep, even if the child can sleep at night, even though they're the ones suffering. The mother still can't sleep. So this is what verse 34 is really about. It's Mother Earth in the form of the cow, expressing her appreciation towards the Lord for protecting her, for protecting Dharma, for protecting her children. So it's a verse of gratitude that Mother Earth is expressing. And then we look at the next verse, verse 35, where we start to enter the mood and the heart of Mother Earth. Verse 35 has a little section which talks about Satyabhama and Krishna, specifically his sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. I mean, if we look at Krishna book, if we go to any of Krishna's pastimes, we can see that so many women, so many personalities were attracted by the sweet smile of Krishna, by the glance of Krishna, by his appeal, whether it's the gopis or the wives in Dwarka. But in fact, We can even talk about ourselves, right? We don't even have to think about the woman or the consorts at Krishna's time. When we look at Krishna on the altar, just think of how much his beauty captures our heart. We could be having the most nightmare of a day. And yet when we come in front of Krishna on the altar, where he's dressed with his nice peacock feather, with his flute in the hand, where he's carrying a bugle, right, a conch, right, a bugle conch, I think it's called, around his waist, where he's got his bimba red lips, right, like proper bimba. If you've seen bimba fruit, you can see how red they are. That's how red Krishna's lips are. And then his lotus like eyes. When we come in front of Krishna, despite having the worst, the most tiring of days, oftentimes, I'm sure some of us have felt this at least a few times, all that exhaustion from the day just seems to just vanish. It's like, where did it go? But that's how attractive Krishna is, that we just naturally become completely absorbed in his beauty. And it's interesting because specifically in this verse, Sri Prabhupada uses the example of Satyabhama, right? Of his sweethearts like Satyabhama. And we know Satyabhama is one of Krishna's wives. But why is she used here? She's used because actually Satyabhama's personality was very feisty. She was very strong-tempered. She was very demanding. And she'd show lots of tantrums. And you see it throughout the pastimes. You know, there's always something related to Satyabhama's strong personality that comes up. But with it, we know that Satyabhama being a wife of Krishna, that bittersweet relationship is always there, you know? That's what makes the couple grow stronger, you know? Usually we say, like, it's a common saying now, at least I guess it's a Gujarati thing. I don't know if it's just a general Indian thing, but if a couple are arguing so much, you know that actually they have so much more depth in their love for each other. And that's Satyabhama and Krishna, all in and out. So we can appreciate that there's such a strong affection and such a close bond between Satyabhama and Krishna. And what makes this even more interesting as an example is that Satyabhama is considered an avatar or incarnation of Bhumi Devi, of Mother Earth herself. So when we think of that, when we appreciate that Mother Earth herself is speaking this, then we can understand that she's not just giving an example. Prabhupada isn't just giving an example of Satyabhama, but he's giving the example of Satyabhama because Mother Earth would be able to relate. She'd understand exactly Satyabhama's mood towards Krishna, their relationship, their loving exchange. And with it also the separation that Satyabhama would have felt when Krishna left the planet. But Mother Earth goes a step further and actually explains that her bond as Prithvi, her bond as Bhumi Devi, was even greater than Satyabhama's. Now, how is that possible? If we look around us today, if a husband and wife part, that's almost like the greatest, the highest sort of separation. You might consider a mother and a child's separation to be greater. But Earth being separated from somebody? And we can understand this because Satyabhama as the wife would be quite used to some sort of daily separation from Krishna. When Krishna goes out of the house, when he's going to different places, when he's going to work, you know, when he's going to the palace for his government affairs, then Satyabhama is used to a bit of separation from Krishna. But Bhumi Devi was practically never separated from Krishna. Wherever Krishna went, Bhumi Devi was present. And she was always engaged in some sort of service with the Lord. She played such an integral part, an integral role in arranging the pastime places for Krishna, whether it's with the gopis, the gopas, the Vrajvasis, the Dwarkavasis. But Mother Earth, as Bhumidevi, was always present, not just with pastimes, but just generally. If Krishna was just to go from here to there, or even just sleep at night, Bhumidevi was present. She was always in contact with Krishna. She was always in the presence of Krishna. And with that, what happened? Well, with all that service opportunity that Mother Earth had, she could always feel the touch of Krishna on her body. She could always feel the ecstasy from that touch of Krishna, from that close association. And maybe in some minute quantity, we can appreciate this. Because when we're closely associating or intimately associating with a sadhu who is very closely and directly connected with Krishna, then we know in our heart, we also feel some ecstasy, even if it's for a brief moment, for however long they've connected with us. But we feel that ecstasy. We feel that strong desire to serve them, to give our life and our existence to Krishna and them. But when Krishna left Bhumi Devi, when Krishna left to go back to the spiritual abode, then we can't actually even imagine, close to imagine, the pangs of separation that Bhumi Devi felt. Because she was always connected with Krishna. And now all of a sudden, Krishna's left. There was never a moment where Bhumi Devi was not in close association of Krishna. And now all of a sudden he's left. And it's almost like Bhumi Devi would have never expected that to happen, because day in, day out, night in, night out, Krishna was always present with her. Now, if we look at the world around us today, there's so much chaos going on, right? There's so much atheism that is prominent. And even our existing leaders, right? Many of them are atheists or pseudo-atheists, but even those who are slightly inclined towards spirituality, even they're corrupted in politics in some way, shape, or form because of the power. When the world's endeavoring for what we would term as unity and diversity, when the world leaders are coming together, forming peace pacts and stuff like this, those very leaders are the ones that are engaging in warfare with each other, like Russia and Ukraine. So with all that separation that Mother Earth has been feeling from Krishna, and now with all this corruption, with all this negative energy, the miscreants that is going on right now, isn't Mother Earth suffering so much right now? But then we mentioned Paritaranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, that Krishna comes to protect his devotees. Krishna comes to annihilate the demons or the demoniac mentality. And surely Mother Earth would have appealed to Krishna, like, please come, like Kali Yuga is growing at such a rapid pace. Please come, save these living entities, protect them. But where is Krishna? What is he waiting for? When a lover's devoid of his or her beloved, when a mother's devoid of her child, when a disciple's devoid of his or her guru, then what happens to that person? Naturally, the whole world feels vacant. It feels empty for that person. What would normally be a daily affair or daily habit or chore becomes like an irregular habit because of depression and voidism. Like maybe every day you're used to just waking up, going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, having a shower. But in that mood, when you've just lost, when a lover's lost their beloved, when the mother has lost her child, then they don't feel like doing any of that. And even if they do it, whether they do it or not, they're not really even conscious of it. It's as if the whole world has turned upside down. And in the same way, when Krishna's left the planet for his spiritual abode, Mother Earth was feeling that level of vacancy and emptiness. So it's expected, actually, that all these miscreants, all this demoniac mentality is able to influence Mother Earth so much, to the extent that we would say that the world's in disarray, right? We might term it as global warming or forest fires or landslides or whatever we want to call it, whatever natural occurrence is happening, tsunamis, tornadoes, whatever. And then, modern day thought process is that, okay, we need to do something about it. Then we have so many NGOs, so many charities, conservation groups, awareness campaigns coming. And it's nice. It's nice. It's important to do what we can to help Mother Earth. But when we go to the root of what's happening, we understand that this is not happening because of some natural occurrence per se. It's happening because Mother Earth is actually devoid of Krishna. In our endeavor to try and save the Earth, we need to understand that there's only one thing that Mother Earth wants and needs, and that's Krishna. She's feeling separation, like we read in this chapter, from Krishna's lotus feet, from the markings on Krishna's lotus feet. As Krishna would move around on the earth, Mother Earth would feel the footprints on her body. That's what she's missing. That's what she's after. And Queen Kunti, in one of her prayers, she says, Neyam shobhishyate tatra yate danim gadadhara tvatpader ankiti bhati swalakshana vilakshite. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 39. Translation: O Gadadhar, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so, unquote. So even Queen Kunti is talking about how it's because of the lotus feet of Krishna being in contact with Mother Earth that nature, that earth is flourishing so nicely. But Mother Earth is now feeling despondent because Krishna has left and there's the increased influence of Kali. And so if we really want to help Mother Earth, if we really want to do the welfare activity of saving Mother Earth, then the highest thing we should be doing is looking at how can we relieve her suffering? What's that real welfare work that we can do for her and for all living entities? And that is bringing Krishna back. We have to plead and pray just like all the devotees did for all the incarnations of Krishna. Krishna, you've got to come back. We're inviting you back. We're forcing you to come back. Mother Earth is despondent. She's feeling separation from you. You have to come back. But what do we have to do to be able to do that? Right? How do we do it rather? Well, Prabhupada's shown us the way. Prabhupada says that there's one root cause of all suffering, right? And that is our absence of the relationship of Krishna. So he's given us the process, he's given us the example on how we can bring Krishna back by making the Bhagavatam our life and soul. The Bhagavatam is the literature form of Krishna. By spreading the holy name of Krishna to the best of our capacity. The holy name is non-different to Krishna. So the real relief from the suffering comes from deepening our own Krishna consciousness and spreading Krishna consciousness. Often when we think of preaching, which is what I was starting this talk with, often we think that, oh, the devotees need to be present. There needs to be an audience, right? An audience to our kirtan, an audience to our harikatha, whether it's on Zoom, in the temple, or wherever. And we think, okay, there's not much of an audience. Then we think, okay, what's the point? Nobody's really here to listen. Nobody's going to hear. So what happens is the energy drops, and sometimes even the program gets cancelled. But we should know that even if there's no physical presence, right, no audience that we can visually see, we should know that the demigods and the mystic yogis are always coming where there's Harikatha and Harikirtan. They come in their subtle body because they want to come and relish the katha. They want to come and take benefit from hearing and chanting. They themselves want to feel the relief. And then we might think, oh, I can't see them. Where are they? My Harikatha, my Harikirtan is not so potent. Why would they come and listen to me? But even then we can think, okay, even if somebody is not physically there present to see, even if the demigods or the mystic yogis aren't coming in their subtle body, but there's always going to be one personality that will always be present with me and Krishna when I'm performing Harikatha or Harikirtan. And that is Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth. Whatever corner of the universe you want to go, okay, not universe, but whatever corner of the world you want to go, Bhumi Devi will be present in some way, shape, or form. Somebody might think, okay, well, what if I'm going to do Harikatha on the airplane? Well, isn't the airplane also made of Bhumi Devi's? So Bhumi Devi is always going to be present wherever we go. So whenever we're performing Harikatha, whenever we're performing Harikirtan, regardless of who's there, who's not there, regardless of whether the demigods come or don't come, that piece of land where we're performing Harikatha, that part of Bhumi Devi will feel ecstasy from our bhajan, from our kirtan, from our Harikatha. Because Bhumi Devi gets to feel Krishna's presence, she gets to feel the association of Krishna. And just think, we get to be an instrument of that ecstasy that Bhumi Devi gets to feel. By performing devotional service to whatever capacity we can, to whatever degree we can, if we're constantly trying to engage ourselves in chanting the Lord's names, qualities, forms, pastimes, even if I don't feel connected, we should still do it because Bhumi Devi will find ecstasy in it. And isn't that service worth doing, worth performing? Often we will go and look outside and go, oh, like the world is such a mess. One man can't save the world. But if we just do our part and just chant Krishna's names, do Hari Kirtan, have Harikatha, then at least a small part of Bhumi Devi will feel ecstasy. As devotees, we always talk about chant and be happy, spread Krishna consciousness and make devotees. We talk about give this one life to Krishna. We talk about perfect your life and go back to Godhead. And yeah, we should definitely think about and do all these things. We should make it our focus. But I'm appealing off the back of these few verses, off the back of this chapter, where Bhumi Devi is expressing her despondence at the separation she feels from Krishna, that let's perform Harikatha, Harikirtan, let's read the scriptures, let's chant Krishna's holy names, let's attend Kirtan, let's perform Sankirtan on the streets. Not just for our benefit, not just for the living entities that we can see around us in terms of the people if we're on the streets or the devotees in the temple room, but let's also do it for Bhumi Devi because she is one of our mothers. Isn't it our service to Bhumi Devi to do something that pleases her also? And if we do that little bit, then Bhumi Devi will feel the ecstasy, like it said here, right? When Krishna was present, in the last part of the translation of text 35, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass, which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure. These are the symptoms that Bhumi Devi felt when Krishna's physical form was present. But imagine when Krishna's holy name, when Krishna's katha is present, what sort of ecstasy would Mother Earth be feeling? So yeah, I'll end there, conscious of time, but thank you very much. And yeah, let's think about Bhumi Devi also when we're thinking about doing our Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for this excellent, powerful class. It took us to a new dimension, staying on earth, but a new dimension. It reminded me of scientists saying, because of climate changes and things, like a butterfly flapping his wings in Brazil can make an effect all over the world. So no wonder you said that whatever you do at the place you are, the Harikatha, you will make a difference, and at least Bhumi Devi will be. I think this is an excellent class today. And then there are people on this group. So I guess listening, everybody who's listening there in different parts of the world, I think different parts of the Bhumi Devi is getting the ecstasy as well. So I'm happy that we are on Zoom and in different countries instead of just one room. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Before I open it up to questions, I'd like to welcome, there are some new devotees on the group, Pupesh Prabhu, and Seema Thakur, she comes sometimes. So can we chant 3 Haribols for the newcomers? Kindly join us if you can every day at the same time, same link. Hare Bol, Haribol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
So let's open up to questions and answers or comments. Any questions, answers, comments from this powerful class today? I think everybody's in ecstasy after this class and just relishing and enjoying what you've just said, Prabhuji. And feeling the pangs of separation as well. Yes, Nikhil Prabhu, kindly unmute.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much, Bhaja Govinda Prabhu. That was really nice, really nice. As usual, of course. I really liked what you were saying. Well, obviously based on what Srila Prabhupada was saying, that in terms of the separation from Krishna and how all the other devotees, they're experiencing Krishna's association when he was there, with them, but then they feel separation when he goes, like that. But like you were saying, that she never experienced that separation even for a moment. So she wasn't used to it. So it must have been quite a shock, that for such a long time, and we hear that Krishna was there for 125 years. So for 125 years, 24 hours a day, she was in connection. Obviously, when Krishna was a baby, maybe he was, initially not crawling on the ground. So maybe not the whole 125 years. Sorry, I'm probably overthinking this. But anyway, from a very young age, once Krishna started crawling around, then she started, experiencing his association in that way. So yeah, it must have been such a shock when he left. So yeah, I really like that point that you made based on that we should try and bring Krishna back, or try and bring them together again, just sort of bring them together, just like we hear, we hear that in the spiritual world, or especially in Goloka Vrindavan, or even Vrindavan here, the whole thing, the whole purpose of it, from a devotee's perspective, is trying to bring Radha and Krishna together. That's the whole aim of their life. They just want Radha and Krishna to be together, and then they get separated, as part of pastimes, to increase that separation. But that's for their enjoyment. They're experiencing that separation, but from the devotees' point of view, they never want them to be separated. You know, they're always trying to bring them together. And I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, it's a point we've heard many times, but also even in the Hare Krishna mantra, we're trying to bring them together with Hare, you know, and Krishna, Hare Rama. You know, we're trying to bring Krishna and his consort, Krishna and his energy together. And so that's kind of like the whole aim, you know, ultimately of spiritual life. Yeah, just to bring them together. So, and yeah, so Radha and Krishna, and by extension, you know, Krishna and his devotees, we're always trying to bring them together. And obviously, because myself and Bhaja Govinda Prabhu were in a Sangha together as well Mondays, so we're going through the Bhagavatam in that as well. And we heard a description of the spiritual world in Canto 3, and he was explaining that there's a really nice point that, you know, there's all kinds of flowers and plants, but all of them understand that Tulsi Devi, Tulsi is the most favored by Krishna, so therefore they show the utmost respect to Tulsi, and they understand her topmost position. And then Prabhupada says very nicely in the purport, he says that there's no envy. You know, he's saying there's no envy in the spiritual world between the devotees. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because basically, like, the devotees, even if, you know, they feel, oh, Krishna would be even happier with the service of this other devotee, so let me bring Krishna together with that devotee. So they're so non-envious that they're even willing to give up Krishna's association if they think, oh, if he associates with that devotee, he'll get even more happiness. So there's literally no envy there. So in the same way, you know, we can see that amongst in association of devotees, especially, you know, very, very advanced devotees, they don't care, you know, who gets the credit for the service or who's the man. You know, they just, as long as service is done and Krishna's pleased, Krishna is happy, then, you know, that's the main thing. So yeah, anyway, I'll stop there before I start rambling on, but thank you, Prabhu. It was really nice, really sweet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Nikhil Prabhu, for that wonderful contribution. Any questions or comments from other devotees? They are all floored. Okay.
I'm hoping they're all floored and rolling in ecstasy on Mother Earth, chanting Krishna's names.
That's
I was just going to say something similar.
Yeah. Okay, so can I request Arya Govind Prabhu? Is it possible for you, Prabhu, to end this session today?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I was just thinking to where we sleep, so that we can always think of Mother Earth. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That was for now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think I went offline or something.
Yes,
the screen froze. So am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you. I was just telling that, you know, Prabhuji gave us a different dimension to where we stand and where we sleep now, so that, you know, we are serving Mother Earth, and then in relation to Krishna. And then I like the fact that Prabhuji told that we can do this service of bringing back Krishna back to the Mother Earth, and then give this service to her. So by chanting and glorifying Krishna's names, and then you know, making Srimad Bhagavatam our life and soul. So thank you very much, Prabhu, for this wonderful class and realizations. I request all the devotees to unmute and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of His grace, Bhaja Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Ram,
Krishna,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram
Hare,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Hare.
One check.
Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Pattanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. His Grace Bhaja Govindam Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
ISKCON Eldoret ki
Jai.
Jai. Jai. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for an excellent class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.